All right, 1.3, rates of change in linear and quadratic functions. Average rate of change equals the slope of a secant line. Okay, this is really basic stuff. This is just the slope of a line. That's all this really is. So let's talk about what I mean by the slope of a line. Let's kind of sketch this out. Let's call like this point A, and therefore this height would be f of A. And over here, I'm going to call this point B, and therefore we could say this height is f of B. And if I wanted to label these points, right, we could say that's A comma f of A. And then this is B comma f of B. And again, these are just placeholders for these points, general placeholders. Well, what's the secant line? The secant line is literally just the line that connects these 2 points. And so when we're talking about the average rate of change, it's just the slope of this line. That's all it is. Super simple. So sometimes we can just look at the graph and count the rise of a run and be done. Other times we're going to have to use this formula, and this is the basic formula. I like to use m for slope. It's f of b minus f of a over b minus a. And you're also going to see me refer to it as this, f prime of x, this little prime here. Now, this is something we'll learn next year, more about what this means. But for now, we can use this to represent the average rate of change. Okay, so let's take a look at some sample problems here. It says, find the average rate of change of each linear function. Okay, this is going to be way too easy for you. Way too easy. Check it out. Rise over run is our average rate of change. Look at this. As I just look, my rise is 2. My run is 3. My rise is 2. My run is 3. So rise over run, that's how we kind of talk about slope. It's simply going up 2 over 3. That's 2 over 3. What do you know? That happens to be the exact slope of the line. I wonder if that will always be the case. Let's take a look. So now I'm going to go down 2. Looks like I'm going down 2 over 1. So down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. Yeah, sure looks like my rise over run is negative 2 because we're going down 2 over 1. Hey, look, that would be negative 2. I know. Isn't this crazy hard? Let's take a look at this one. Oh, by the way, we could go ahead. I just didn't bother doing it because it wasn't that hard. We could use this formula if we had to. Like I could plug in, this is like my A point, and this is like my B point, and plug it in this formula. But guess what I'd get? Negative 2. So we don't have to make it harder than it is. Let's see this thing. What's the rise? As I go from point to point to point, well, the rise is 0. And the run, well, the run could be essentially anything here, right? Like I can make it 1. I can make it 2, I can make it 3. It doesn't really matter what it is. But anything, 0 divided by any number is just going to give us 0. So the average rate of change here is 0. Okay, so the average rate of change for a linear function is a constant. And again, I like to represent that with m or maybe f prime of x. We'll play with that a little bit more later. All right, that's just the average rate of change. But now we're going to get to something a little bit tricky. It's going to even seem like I'm saying the wrong thing. But now I want you to find the rate of change of the average rate of change. The rate of change of the average rate of change. For this, I would set up a little table. So let's just pick some numbers near the origin. So I like to do negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. You could do 2. Really, you only need like 4 points here. And we're just going to plug these in. All right, so if I plugged in a negative 2, what would I get? So negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. I'd get negative 4/3. All right, let's plug in another point. If I plugged in negative 1, I'd get negative 2/3. If I plugged in a 0, well, I would just get 0. If I plugged in a 1, 1 times 2/3 is 2/3. And if I plugged in a 2, 2 times 2 is 4/3. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to find the rate of change, or the average rate of change first. We're going to find this first. And I should have given myself a little space. So let's do this. Since I didn't give myself some space, I'll show you why. We already know what this is because we did this last, but we can see each time it looks like it's going up by 2/3, right? Up by 2/3. Up by 2/3. up by 2/3. Okay, but what this question is asking is the rate of change of the average rate of change. So we want to know how these numbers are changing now. Not the rate, this is the rate of change. We want to know the rate of change of these numbers. Well, they're not changing at all, right? So that's a big old fat 0. So we get a 0 there. I want you to play with these two. Do something similar. I'll start off your table for you, right? So I have an x value, I have an f of x, or you could call it y. Same thing. And then we have the slope, or the f prime value. That's our average rate of change. And then over here, we'll put our rate of change of the average rate of change, or our change of change, or a rate of a rate. So, all right. Again, let's just pick some x values, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. If I plug a -2 in, what would I get? -2 times -2 is +4. 4 plus 3 is 7. -1 times -2 is +2. 2 plus 3 is 5. Probably can tell the pattern here. We already know the slope. So we can keep going, though, if you're not sure. So if you plug in a 0, 0 times -2 is 0. 0 plus 3 is 3. And then we're going to get a 1, and then we're going to get a -1 because it's going down by 2. We know that. And we already established that before. So what is the average rate of change? -2, right? Well, once again, they're asking for the rate of change of the average rate of change. Well, how are each of these changing? Well, they're not. They're not. So the rate of change here is 0. And you might see a pattern here. In this linear function, the rate of change of the average rate of change is 0. In this linear function, the rate of change of the average rate of change is 0. And so you might be able to make an educated guess on what this one's going to be. Well, we already established earlier up here that the rate of change is 0. And if that's never changing, the rate of change of the rate of change is also going to be 0. But sure, if you want to make a table and plan it all out, go for it. But I think we can establish that. So the rate of change of the average rate of change of a linear function is always going to be, you guessed it, 0. And that's because it's a line. That means the slope isn't changing. The slope is a constant. So there is no change to the slope. Therefore, it's always 0. But let's play with the quadratic now. So we have here a quadratic. And we're going to find the average rate of change for this quadratic function. Now, we can use that slope that I gave you, or the slope formula I gave you at the beginning. Or we could just say, okay, from 1 to 2 is this little guy. So that's that line. How does this thing change? Well, it looks like it's going up 1 over 1. Well, for this location, I'd say that the f prime is 1 over 1 or 1. That's easy. Okay. All right, well, what if I'm going from 2 to 3? Okay, so now I'm talking about the slope of this line here. And now we're going up 1, 2, 3 over 1. Right? So that slope is 3 over 1. Again, we could put m, we could put f prime, whatever you want. But we get 3 because 3 over 1 is 3. All right. Let's go to the next one. Again, they give us a nice, beautiful graph. So we're going to go from 3 to 4. Connect those dots. What's the slope of that line? Well, now we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. So up 5 and over 1. So that means my rate of change is 5. All right, now they're giving us just the interval, right? So here this is inequality notation, and here they're giving us an interval notation. So this means from 4 to 5. And they're not giving us a graph anymore, but that's okay. We know the function already. I'm going to rewrite it here. That they gave us up top is x squared minus 2x. And we know from the previous page that I can find the f prime, or the slope, by saying f of b minus f of a over b minus a. So let's just do that. To do that, we got to find out what our f of b is and our f of a is. In this situation, f of b would be f of 5. So that would be 5 squared minus 2 times 5. That's 25 minus 10, so that's 15. And we got to find our f of 4. So that would be 4 squared minus 2 times 4, or 16 minus 8, which is 8. We're just going to plug that into this fancy formula right here. It would be f of b, we established, is 15 minus f of 4, or f of a, which is 8, over 5 minus 4, because that's my, it's like my b, that's like my a. All right, what do I get? 15 minus 8 is 7, 5 minus 4 is 1, and we end up with 7. You might be seeing a pattern at this point, right? We started with a 1, then a 3, then a 5, then a 7. You might be able to make an educated guess as to what this is, but let's do it the old-fashioned way just to prove it. But I have an A, I have a B. I need f of b, or f of 6. So it would be, let's look at the equation, 6 squared minus 2 times 6, or 36 minus 12, which is 24. And my f of a, which is f of 5, I already know. Remember, we did this already over here. So we can just take it and put it right here, 15. Beautiful. So now I'm going to go to my equation. Again, this guy. And I'm going to say my f of b is 24 minus my f of a is 15 over 6 minus 5. And I got 9. 24 minus 15 is 9 over 1. And so my average rate of change here is 9. All right, let's take a big picture step out, zoom out here, and we can see a pattern here. The average rate of change is changing. It's different every interval. How is it changing? Well, it appears that it's going up by 2. What would you say, right? 1 to 3 to 5 to 7 to 9, or all these odd numbers. So we can say the average rate of change of a quadratic function does not stay the same. It's not like a linear. It changes. For consecutive equal length input values, intervals, so we're doing equal length input values, right? These are all just one apart. The rate of change of the average rates of change of a quadratic function is a constant. This one is 2. We're going to say, but it's a constant. And for the above problem, the constant is 2. It's not always going to be 2, but for this one it is. All right. So what we're going to do here on these next ones is we are going to, I'm going to put the directions in here, but we are going to find the rate of change of, I'm just going to put m, but remember this means the average rate of change, okay? Because I ran out of space and I wrote too big. So again, to do this, we're going to establish a table. So again, we're going to make an x, an f of x, and what I'm calling f prime of x, or m for the average rate of change. And then this is actually the rate of change of the average rate of change. You'll see this in calculus. We use the double prime to notate that. Kind of interesting. Okay, so let's pick some x values. How about -2, -1, 0, 1? That should be enough. And now let's just plug this in over here. So let's do f of -2. What would that give me? That would give me -2 times -2 squared plus 10. -2 squared is +4 times -2 is -8 plus 10 is 2. F of -1 is -2. -1 squared plus 10. -1 squared is obviously +1 times -2 is -2 plus 10. We get 8. F of 0. 0 is easy. Because you plug in 0, this big old mess, you just get a 0. So 0 plus 10 is 10. All right, now let's plug in a 1, and we get -2 times 1 squared plus 10. Well, that's going to yield the exact same thing as -1, because -1 squared is the same thing as +1 squared, and here we got an 8, so we're going to get another 8. All right, now let's figure out what's the average rate of change, right? How much is this thing changing each time? Well, here it went up 6, then it went up 2, then it went down 2. Okay, so we can see the average rate of change is changing. It's different each time. But now we want to know the rate of change of the average rate of change. What is that? Well, what's happening here? It looks like from 6 we went down to 2, so that's down 4. And from 2 we went down to -2, and that's down -4 again, and we get that constant of -4, and there's our answer for this one. That's the rate of change of the average rate of change. I know it seems kind of silly to ask for this like double rate thing, but it will come in handy. Actually, will come in handy on problem number 14 as we're going to explain the application of this. Let's try it again with this one. In fact, I want you to try this one on your own, pause the video, and then just check back when you're ready to check your work. Okay, so I went through and plugged in all these values. Pretty sure you're able to do that. And for each of these values, I've got 16, then 5, then 0, then 1, then 8. And then I said, okay, what's the rate of change between each of these values? Well, 16 to 5 goes down 11, then we go down 5, then we go up 1, and then we go up 7. So here's my average rate of change. And from there, now I'm asking for the rate of change of the average rate of change. Well, from negative 11 to negative 5, that's an increase of 6. And then from negative 5 to 1, that's an increase of 6. And then from 1 to 7, that's an increase of 6. So we get this constant again of positive 6. All right, let's go to the last question. So on this one, it says the values of a function are given at a selected x values in the table below. The function is either concave up or concave down, but not both. Determine if the function is concave up or concave down. Let's just quickly talk about what that means. So concave down looks like this. Concave up looks like this. So I think they're trying to tell us we're dealing with some kind of quadratic. It either opens up, concave up, or opens down and is concave down. Now, here's the beauty, the thing that you need to know about this before we move on. There's a rule. Maybe you just want to put a little asterisk here. This is something you absolutely want to know. And that is that if the rate of the average rate is positive, then it's going to be concave up. And if the rate of the average rate is negative, then it's concave down. And check this out. This is kind of interesting. If it's a rate of the average rate, if it equals 0, well then, we have a potential point of inflection. Now I say potential because there's other things it could be, and we'll talk more about that later, but especially next year in calculus. But for now, this is your general rule, and that's all you really need to know to determine this. So let's go through this. Let's take a look at this table. They already got it like partially made for us. So let's try to figure out the rate of change from each of these. So it looks like I went up 2. I went neither up or down, so that's a 0. Then I went down 2, and then I went down 4. Okay, and then what's the rate of change of the average rate of change, right? We need like another row here. Well, down 2, down 2, down 2. Okay, so our rate of change, our average rate of change is negative, right? So we could say this, less than 0. Therefore, or we could say something like this. I mean, this is not really good math to just write equals a negative sign, but typically you write it like this. This is the way you write it, saying it's less than 0, therefore it's negative. So therefore, it is concave down. Boom. It's going to look like that. Okay, and that's it for this video. I'll see you guys on the next one.